Here's what you should be posting on Instagram in 2024. In today's podcast episode, I'm going to be brutally honest because most of the time when people come to me and say, oh, there's been an algorithm change, my content is not performing anymore, it's not the algorithm, it's the content. Okay, so we're in 2024, the algorithm changes constantly, what's trending changes constantly, but majority of the people are still posting content that performed well in 2019. That is not the case anymore. We have moved on, and even if you cling to that idea, how you want your Instagram account to look like or to perform like, it's just not going to work. I'm not saying you cannot post anything you want to. You can post what you want to, you should do, but then don't complain when it doesn't go viral. And I'm also not saying going viral is the most important thing. As a matter of fact, my content might not always go viral, but the content resonates with my target audience. And I think that's step number one. Before you even think about the algorithm, think about the person behind the phone. What kind of content does your target audience want to see? And that's who you are creating content for. Listen, if you use Instagram as your own personal creative outlet and you don't want to think about the target audience, that's fine, that's your thing. But if you're using it as a business or as a freelancer in order to get clients, that's what you want to think of first, right? Who is actually looking at that content? What do they want from me? So you got to do a little bit of research. It's not enough to just think about that 5 minutes or copy what others are doing. You need to think uniquely for you and your own business. That's number one. Number two, when you've already started posting, look at the data. What is it telling you? Data never lies. So you look at what's performing well, what's not performing well. So these are universal steps you have to do always, no matter whether it's 2024 or any other year. Then let's look at what's actually working on Instagram. So we've moved on from only posting square pictures on a feed to even having stories, now to have reels, and it's just expanded so much that it's not that app that it was many years ago, and I do miss it a little bit sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. So right now, what the head of Instagram and majority of the content would say the same, like how it performs, what he said, what works well is shareable content. And I can see that when I create content like that and when I create content for my clients, that works well. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. What I've been creating for such a long time was savable content. I created educational pieces that people can save and then learn from my content. So now you're telling me I need to create completely different content so that people share it. Because people usually don't share a step-by-step tutorial, right? Maybe they share something funny with their friends. So now let's look back at, I would say it was like end of 2019 and beginning of 2018 maybe, where shareable content was actually already very popular. That was when we were all sharing quotes. Because before that, nobody would post a quote on their Instagram account. It was only pictures. And then people started posting quotes on their Instagram feed, and others would share them to their story. And the accounts who did that very early on grew very quickly. So then again, we moved on, we had reels, we had this and that. So now again, Instagram tells us we want shareable content. And the second thing that they're saying is we want content that other people discuss in the DMs. Because what they're seeing is that the engagement is happening behind the scenes. And that is actually something really important for you to know, as well as for your clients. You might see a drop in engagement. So ask yourself, do you have a drop in the engagement as in like comments and likes, but maybe the shares are up because people talking about your content behind the scenes on DMs. That's kind of where Instagram says it's going, and that's what you want to think of your content. Now, I'm not saying that's super easy, because that does mean you have to change your strategy. And if you post still old school and the data is working, aka you're getting green numbers, it's going up, you have more engagement, you get the reach, and people are buying your product or your services, obviously that's great, keep doing it. Like I said, the data never lies. But that's where the trends are going to, and it doesn't just change overnight, right? So think about how can you create content for you and your clients that people want to share. It's not just funny things like we saw in the past, like a quote, aka something inspiring, is also something people want to share. So how can you put that in your strategy? That doesn't mean you suddenly have to become a meme account, but maybe you could put stuff like that in your content strategy. So when you look at what's going to happen in the future, we can see, okay, moving more towards DMs, moving more towards shareable content. How can I add that? And then you want to test it. A week is not enough. You want to test it 1 or 2 months. You want to look at every single post and see, has it performed well? If yes, why? If not, why? And then keep on testing until you find this kind of new strategy. That's also why people hire social media managers, right? Because it's not just posting photos or reels. You need to look at the data, you need to interpret it, and really learn from there. So it's never just writing captions, creating content. You constantly have to learn, you constantly have to see what's going on. And most of the time, it's really not the algorithm, it's you didn't do your research, you didn't learn about your target audience, you didn't look at the data. That doesn't mean it's always you, but most of the time the actual research part falls short, and that's why we don't actually know what's working and what isn't. It took me years and years, and I'm still testing. Like the last few months when it didn't go super well on Instagram, we had to change our strategy and test new things and see if we can find new angles to engage our target audience again. So that's something you want to test as well. So long story short, what is changing starting from 2024 is shareable content and engagement happening in DMs. Who knows what else will happen, but for now, remember to do your research, to test and look at the data and test different pieces of content. What once worked might not work anymore, even if it worked for so long. Let me know in the comments below how it's going for you on Instagram and if you feel like these new strategies are something you want to try on. All right, see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.